Summertime does not only mean nice weather, getting outside, picnics and everything, it also unfortunately means storms. Thunder, lightning, hail, heavy wind, rain, you name it. And this can be really stressful for your dog. So on this week's episode, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some ways to help them overcome or deal with storms if they're having issues. So let's go ahead and talk about that next. All right, let's get this week's episode going. Hey, everybody, I am Jake. I'm from OnDogTrainingAcademy.com. We're an online dog training website, so definitely check us out, OnDogTrainingAcademy.com. There you'll be able to see courses. We do one-on-ones, so if you ever want to just talk to me and get some advice or want to do lessons or whatever, we do offer virtual one-on-one lessons. It is very beneficial. We can set up to where I can have a dog present to use for demonstrations, or if you want to just talk, we can certainly do that to kind of come up with ideas for whatever issues you might be dealing with your dog. You can also find if we have any live events coming up. We don't at this time, but if we do, that's where they'll be, is OnDogTrainingAcademy.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Our podcast, Learn, Laugh, Bark, is on there as well. So search us on there and find us, like us, subscribe. If you're listening on our podcast, guys, thank you very much. We always appreciate our listeners on the podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. If you're watching us on YouTube, hey guys, how are you? You can see me. We would really appreciate if you subscribe to our channel. Let's boost this channel up. That way, also, if you click on notifications, you'll get notified anytime our podcasts or our podcast or YouTube videos become available. We try to do these once a week. And last week I was gone, guys. I took a week off to enjoy the finally nice weather, get some projects done around home, and train some dogs. So I appreciate you guys letting me have that week off, but I am back, I am ready, and let's get talking about it. So as I sit here today, it is early May. I shoot these about a day or so before I post them, so it is May 11th right now. And we are within hours away of getting hit by another big storm. It's dark, it's gloomy out, it's warm, it's humid. It just feels like it's going to be a stormy day. A couple days ago, we got hit with a storm that produced about quarter-size hail. Some places around us got it even worse. And it brought me back to 2019 when we got hit here at our house. We got hit with a storm that hit us with softball-size hail. If you can imagine what that sounds like, I don't even know if you can imagine what that sounds like if you've ever actually been through it. It was brutal. It caused a tremendous amount of damage to our house and everything. And in a previous episode, I actually did talk about storms and things like that. And I did show pictures of the damage to our house, actually. And I just felt like, we're getting into this. And this is a subject I've talked about frequently and a subject I've talked about relatively recently, but I just felt like, hey, we need to address this again because we're getting into these months. I wanted to have a episode dedicated solely to thunderstorms and how can we overcome this. I will do one for the 4th of July where we talk about fireworks and everything. I'm going to do that every year, but for this year, for this time right now, thunderstorms. So we got to first talk about why are dogs afraid of thunder? Well, there's a couple theories. There is a theory that and I don't know how much this is actually true, but there's a theory that lightning actually, the act of lightning produces some sort of either a high pitched noise or something, or the pressure, something happens where it actually can be painful to some sensitive dogs. I personally don't know if that's true. I haven't done enough research to validate that, but what I can say is one of the things I think that is fearful to a lot of dogs is just the sheer fact that it's a noise that they really can't identify and locate. So, you think about it, when the thunder goes boom, it goes across the entire sky. And I think dogs sometimes have a hard time if they can't pinpoint where it's happening. Like if you scream and your dog looks at you and goes, that's where that noise came from. Or if you drop a pan on the ground, the dog can go, that's where that noise came from. They don't care. Even some dogs, there'll be dogs who are afraid of thunder, but not afraid of gunshots. It's because they can see, boom, they have a place of reference. That's where that noise came from. But with thunderstorms, they just don't. They just can't, They have a direction, but they don't have a pinpointed location, and that can be hard on some of the dogs. The other thing too is if a traumatic event. 2019 softball-sized hail completely just destroyed our house. That was really traumatic for our own dog, who up until then was what I would be considered bulletproof when it came to thunderstorms, loud noises, everything. Now he has issues with thunderstorms. They're mild, but he has issues with thunderstorms. He has issues with high winds, rain, noises, things like that. He just doesn't like it now, and it's almost like a PTSD where it kind of triggers when these storms come through. And that stuff definitely can happen. And I mean, even for me, we got hail the other day, and the sound of it brought me back to that day. Now, I'm not saying I have PTSD, but it definitely gave me a little bit of like, oh my goodness, like hearing that noise, hearing the hail hit the roof. And we get pea-sized hail here, relatively frequently throughout the season, so that's not new. But quarter size was getting a little heavier to where it was actually making some considerable noise. But what I want to talk about now is what can we do? Things that we can do to help our dog overcome the issues with storms. Now, this might not be something where your dog ever gets cured of. I think it's really hard, especially like an emotional response, like a PTSD type of thing. I think it's really hard for dogs to just get over it. Now, I'm not saying your dogs can't and you can't work them through, but at the very least, we don't want to make it worse, and we want our dogs to be happy and comfortable while they are going through these storms when the issues would pop up. So the one thing I will say, excuse me, the one thing I will say is that's not on this list that I will mention just off the top of my head is consulting a vet. I'm not against medicating your dogs to help them get through it if it's like high level stress, like bad stress, destructive, biting you, whatever, something super bad is happening. But if it's mild, I think I'm just hearing thunder right now, of course. Gotta make sure I get this done before we lose power. Ugh. But if it's mild, I would rather try to help the dog work through it than put them on meds. Meds are okay because they can chill the dog out to where they are maybe in a workable state. But sometimes meds can definitely dope the dog out to where, they don't notice, but there's no way of making progress. I like to try as much as I can to help the dog progress through these storm issues, so it's not something that we hopefully have to live with forever. If it is, it is, and we manage it the dog's entire life, whatever. But I like to say, hey, let's try and work through this, buddy. If it gets to the point where the dog is just tremendously stressed, well, we just got to deal with that then, and meds maybe are an answer. But anyways, here's my list of things that are going to help you guys out. The first one is give them a safe space. This could be a room, this could be a kennel, this could be a spot in your house, somewhere where the dog says, hey, I feel safe. Good example I can give you for Luda. When it gets really windy out, if I'm down here working and Luda's afraid, he'll sit in our foyer. So it's kind of halfway between our basement and our upstairs. He'll sit there. I'm not sure why, but he feels like that's his kind of safe area. He wants to be more ground level. Now, maybe he doesn't come all the way downstairs because either A, I have the door shut, or he just knows he's not supposed to be coming down the stairs. And so he's like, well, I don't want to commit the entire way and be in trouble, but I'm going to sit in this foyer where I feel a little more comfortable. I think he tries to, this really happens with high winds. I think he's trying to escape the sounds of the high winds, and that's the first place he gets to that the sound kind of subsides a little bit. So give them a safe place. Now, like with Luda, he wants to be by me when the storms are going. He's not comfortable, so he always wants to be by us for like protection or for safety, which is fine. We let him do it as long as it's not like he's trying to break out of kennels or do anything crazy like that. We will let him just hang out with us, and we'll do a couple of the things that I'll be talking about next. But even if the safe space is just hanging out next to you on the floor, let your dog do that. If that's what's going to help them overcome this, let them do that. And there is the old thing of like, well, don't pet them, don't praise them. I'm not gonna praise my dog and be like, yes, you're doing great, you're so awesome, but I am going to like soothe them. There is something to be said about consoling a dog when they're afraid. Not feeding it necessarily, but just having I'll just have my hand on him and I will just calmly be petting him kind of while this is all going on. I'm not doing a ton of talking and being like, oh, it's okay, oh my God, it's okay. Because even sometimes our like frantic soothing sound, like we're trying to talk like I just did, can increase nervousness. So I just have my hand on him and I just calmly pet him to just let him know, you're fine, bud. You're fine. Which will lead into something else here later. The next one then is give them some distractions. So what I like to tell people is find something that your dog is really into. So with Luda, he loves food, he loves chews. But I will say, the last storm we had, this 2 storms ago that we had, I gave Luda a Whimsy, which usually he absolutely loves these chews. And he stopped halfway through because of the storm and decided he just wanted to lay by us. He did not want to chew on his bone, which is something he would never just give up. And he just left it. He's like, I think I'm done. I want to just be safe. So that bone was not enough to push him through the nervousness that the storm brought. So I'm like, okay, bud, well, what does he really like? He loves tugging. He loves balls. He loves toys. And he loves treats. So we did like some really fun obedience stuff. We did some trick training. We did super light things. And we did some tug reward play. Everything he already knew. And this is the important thing too. I'm only going to do stuff with my dog that I'm confident I'm not going to have to like work on or correct if he makes mistakes or anything. This is about having fun. So I do things that I'm very sure my dog is going to do well at. And if he makes a mistake, I'm certainly not going to add correction because he's making a mistake under the umbrella of I'm nervous, but I'm still doing this thing. So I try to tie in what my dog values really high with the thing that he's kind of afraid of, which would be the storm, and keep it light and fun and distract him a little bit. I think that's a really good idea. Other distractions you can give your dog is putting on the TV, putting on the radio, having some sort of noise background. Now, I mean, you guys have heard thunder, I'm sure. You can't really mask the sound of thunder as much as you try, but maybe you can mask some of the sound of like heavy rain, maybe a little bit of hail noise, wind noise. You can mask that by having the radio on. Now I'm not going to crank it to where I feel like you're almost doing like the old I can't even think of what it's called, but where the military would just play music super loud and annoy their people are going against, just replay the same annoying music over and over. Psychological warfare, I'm sure that's what that's called. I feel like maybe if you play certain musics and stuff, maybe the dog gets to that point. So be really careful with what you're playing and keep it at a decent level, but just don't blast and blare it to the point where it could actually be harming the environment. And so you want, with this, like I said, with the distracting them, it's TV, it's radio, it's games, playing games with them, having a good time with them as much as you can. The next one, and I think this is something that I think can be a missing piece to help you guys out. Watch your reaction to things. Watch how you react to the storm. It's so easy and quick for us to be able to go, holy crap, when there's thunder or lightning, when some loud noise happens. It's really easy for us to react and be like, oh my God, and then you run to the window and you want to see. I think especially with dogs are pack animals. So whether you want to admit it or not, they're going to have a hierarchy in your household. So how they see you, well, ideally they see you as the leader, right? So if the leader is calm and not worried, then that typically will sort of bleed down to the other dogs or the other people in the house. But if you're nervous, if you're anxious, well, I think the dog goes, well, shit. Well, if dad or if mom is nervous, maybe I need to be too. And that can really affect your dog's behavior. If you pop up and you run over to the window, your dog's coming with you like, what is it? Oh my God, that noise got you upset. That noise got you scared. Well, I'm going to be scared too. And we need to be careful. So try to keep it all inside. When that thunder goes, you could just kind of go, like a little bit, or like I'll calmly turn to my wife and I'll be like, man, that was a big one. But I'm keeping my voice calm. Internally, I could be going, oh my God, what the hell just happened? But externally, I am trying to portray calmness so that my dog doesn't feed off of my anxiety towards the storm as well. I would also say, watch how if you have a dog that's afraid of storms and then you have like a young dog, be really careful about that whole mimicking thing. Like, I don't want your other dogs to pick up on the habits of your dog that is afraid of storms. You want to be super careful with that. So maybe having that other dog put away because that's maybe the safe place they want to be anyways, and then just actively working with the other dog or vice versa, depending on what you need to do. The last one, and I think this is a really important one as well, is don't yell or correct your dog at this point. Your dog is going to act erratic at times during storms when there's stresses. This isn't coming from a place of disobedience. This is coming from a place of fear. And it's just not something I recommend you try to correct. If you're afraid, like, let's say you're afraid of snakes and you're walking and a snake jumps out on the trail in front of you and it's just there and you're freaking out. If your friend turned to you and punched you in the arm and said, get over it, are you going to get over it? I doubt it. I don't think you're going to go, ow, okay, you know what? You're right. Snakes aren't scary. I'm fine. And move on. No, I think that's going to add insult to injury, right? It's going to make you more afraid, or it's at least going to make you afraid and now you have a sore arm. So what I'm saying is don't hold your dog to a high standard for obedience, for commands, for perfection during a situation that is making them stressful, just because I don't think it's fair. If your dog's afraid, it's not fair to be like, you got to be perfect. If you make a mistake, I'm going to be mad at you, because it's going to happen. They're living, breathing animals and they're going to make these mistakes. So just be careful with all of that. But that is it. That is my list. That is what I've got to kind of help your dogs through these stormy situations. Do your best to get prepared. Keep an eye on the weather. Like I just heard thunder a little bit ago, so I'm going to be watching the radar when I get done with this, and I'm going to see, hey, what do I got to do? I got some dogs in for training right now, so I'm going to probably pop the radio on, turn it up a little bit. Luckily, they're down in the lower area. They're actually just right behind the camera here, thankfully being quiet. And they, we'll just try to distract them as best we can. So hopefully this was helpful, guys. Hopefully you learned a lot. If you want more information, you definitely can visit us on Instagram and on Facebook. Just look for Learn, Laugh, Bark podcast, or look for ondogtrainingacademy.com. We're on there with both of those. We post relatively often, but if you have any questions or want us to cover something, you can certainly message us. We've been getting some really good messages and stuff through the different social medias asking for other content to be discussed, and we're definitely going to be obliging those requests and talking about it. So hopefully this is helpful, guys. Get working with your dogs, get training with your dogs, and be prepared. Have a plan, be prepared, and hopefully this was helpful. So guys, like always, we'll see you next week.